Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. Today's guest is Cayla Craft. Cayla Craft, host of Mommy Millionaire Podcast, is a mom of three, a self-made multi-millionaire, and lifestyle entrepreneur. As a California native, she went from saving lives as an ER nurse, working from 9 to 5, to helping women pursue a passion for owning their own businesses and becoming their own bosses. Her first taste of success began when she created an organization of 70K plus people for Isogenics, a company that sells health and wellness supplements. Using that business building knowledge as a foundation, she branched out as a business strategist and found incomparable satisfaction from helping others achieve successes. She has been featured on Fox, ABC, Hallmark, CBS, and the list, to name a few. Cayla has inspired thousands of women, including me, to believe in themselves as entrepreneurs and businesswomen. Her main goal is to help women shamelessly pursue their ambitions and grow their businesses to 7 figures. Cayla created Mommy Millionaire to fill a void of community driven by women that desire to uplift, encourage, and rally each other's successes. Mommy Millionaire seeks to pour out practical tips and mindset habits that are current and relevant to what is working today. Cayla is an expert at speaking about sales, culture, and online marketing with experience in keynote speeches on connecting. So I really love this episode. And I just gotta say, Cayla is so freaking adorable. You guys are gonna love her. I can't remember how I came across her, but I started listening to, I remember now. It was Tim's story. He's been on my podcast and he put out a podcast with her. And then I discovered she had a podcast and I looked it up and I really loved all of the positivity and the affirmations. She had a whole podcast with affirmations where you talk to yourself. It's all about the way you speak to yourself and the things you say. I really believe there's power in forecasting your own future by the words you speak. And she had so much cool information and positivity, encouraging women and empowering them to live in their greatness. And I loved her story. So I'm so excited today to have her come on the Sisterhood of Sweat because our missions are aligned. We're all about building women's confidence and self-esteem and empowering everybody to just live out their dreams. And I'm excited because I'm going to go to the event she talks about in 2 weeks. I'm going live to Mommy Millionaire, and I hope you all will join me. So without further ado, I want to welcome the one, the only Cayla Craft to the show. I am so excited to have Cayla Craft on the show. Welcome, Cayla.
Yay! I am so excited to be here.
Wow. It's rare that I meet someone that I think is as bubbly as I am, but I think I've made my match here. I'm so excited.
We attracted each other, right? We attracted each other.
Yeah. I've been getting your positive vibes, listening to your podcast, and I could feel like the positivity, like it's an aura around you. How did you become so positive? Have you always been that way?
You know what? I think I always was because my mom raised me at a very young age. I was raised by a single mom and we had a lot of just turmoil in my childhood. And she never let us complain. She would never let us say out loud we were sick. She said, anything that you want to be true, say that out loud. And so I was just very trained at a young age to be optimistic and to say positive things out loud. I used to like have self-doubt, and I used to think I was like the chubby kid. And so I felt kind of like unsure of myself. And so my mom taught me like to say out loud what I wanted to be true. Like, oh my gosh, I am the most beautiful woman in the world and I radiate love. Like I would just say things like that. Literally, I remember my friends will actually say, like, when you were 12, you would walk around and say that. And everybody thought you were so conceited. I was like, that's fine. So I think I always have been like that, but you know what? I am not, it doesn't still come naturally to me. There are a lot of times where it's like, I feel negative about a situation, but I have so many tools in my tool belt to bring out the positivity and change my perspective on anything. And I think that's what matters most is like people listening in right now. Like it's not always good, like there are situations that happen in our life that suck, but it's learning to find the good in every situation.
Yes. Just like my dad used to say, when I would be maybe upset about something, he would just say, there's enough good out there that you can focus on that. Like rather than finding the bad, it's what you look for. I think a lot of times is what you find.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so true. Good advice from Dad.
Yeah, well, he had a ton of sayings, and they come out like, how your parents rub off on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was the most positive man I have ever known. So with a dad like that, you're going to have some positivity. And he also raised me to be God-fearing. So a lot of that comes from God within.
Absolutely. I'm on this group text with me and all my girlfriends, and this morning I texted all of them. I said, I'm praying for all of you guys, and I hope you let Jesus shine through you today. And that's something I say to everybody I come into contact with that is a believer, because it's true. Like there is a light that shines from you that only God can give you. And it's one of hope. It's like just like being that lighthouse. I don't know if you've ever heard that Christian song. It's called Lighthouse.
Oh,
My
I
kids
love
are
that. I have it on
obsessed
my
with
playlist.
it.
Yeah.
Yep. My kids sing it all day long. They're just obsessed with it. And it's like, it's so true that's what separates us. That's the, the salt and light of the world, So I love it.
I love that. Now, I really want to dive into your backstory because I want to really get to the point where we're talking about how to overcome victim mentality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like I said, I was raised by a single mom. My parents were divorced when I think I was around 5 years old. But the trauma started much before that because my dad was a drug addict and an alcoholic. And so, experiencing a life like that, I just had a lot of shame. My dad ended up going to jail. My mom declared bankruptcy when I was 8. And I just knew at a very young age that I was different than people. And being different for me made me feel like a victim. I always thought like, gosh, when am I going to have my big break? When is somebody going to come to save me? That's literally what I would always ask myself growing up. Like, when is somebody going to come to save me? And I finally realized at 18, I had a really big scare and landed myself in a hospital bed with ulcers from stress. And the doctor said, like, Cayla, if your lifestyle doesn't change, you're going to like not see your 30th birthday. Like you're not going to live long. And I was like, wow, like that really like, whoa, okay. This victim mentality is no longer serving me. So I have to take 100% ownership of where I'm at in my life. And I wasn't like in a bad spot. I was just in a very bad relationship, found myself in toxic situations that were causing ulcers. And so everything changed for me then. I went raw vegan and
oh my gosh.
I went completely like drastic. That's just how I am. And realized that my thoughts were things and just started taking ownership. And like anything I didn't want in my life, I just became unapologetic about it not being there. I stopped having a relationship with my dad. I broke up with a toxic boyfriend I was with for years and, just kind of started to make myself a priority. And then everything shifted for me from that moment forward. And kind of, I know that there's a lot of people listening in right now that can hear stories like that. And you can kind of start to go, oh, well, it doesn't sound like it's that bad, or gosh, like, well, my situation's different. I have more to complain about or whatever it is. But it's time that you stop enrolling yourself in that story You get to choose today to have a different story for yourself. And I just decided I didn't want to be a victim anymore because being a victim was getting me nowhere. I decided I was going to be a victor over my life and start claiming victory over everything. And anybody listening in right now can decide that as well. It's just a choice you make. It's a line you draw in the sand to say enough is enough. I'm taking ownership no matter what. Everything is, if it's up to be, it's up to me. And that's something I just live by.
I truly love that because we are not the things that happen to us in life, and we get to define who we want to be. It isn't about the circumstances that you're in. And I really, in the past, I was a victim of domestic violence, and I chose not to be a victim anymore and to change my story. And I didn't live in that story. And I love that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I love that my whole life changed. You would never know, like, to come to my studio, the Sisterhood of Sweat, that I ever was a domestic violence victim. You wouldn't know that by the way I live and the positivity within. So anyone can change their story. And I love what you did when you were in the midst of that. You wrote a quote over your bathroom mirror. Can you share with everyone what that was about?
Oh gosh, which quote was it? Oh my gosh, do you remember what quote it was?
I am the captain
of my life. So I always do that in lipstick or whatever it is that I want to dry erase marker. You guys can all try this. I'm huge on mirror work, but I am the captain of my life. And reminding yourself that, like, if you're not headed in the direction that you want to go, all you have to do is change the course. Right. And it's literally just a moving of the steering wheel, right? It's a choice that you get to make. Nobody else can do it for you. You can't tell your coach that. You can't tell your community that. You have to be the one to move it. And sometimes you just might be 2 degrees off from where you want to go. And it's just a small shift. It doesn't have to be something drastic like me going raw vegan and cutting out every single person in my life. That's just what worked for me at that moment in time. But it could be just small things that will help you start going in the direction that you want to go.
How can somebody tell if they are living in the victim mentality? Because I think sometimes you get so used to the things you're saying to yourself, you don't even recognize it.
I mean, I would just ask somebody, like, are you happy with your life? Are you where you thought you would be, at this point 10 years ago? Asking yourself those types of questions. And then if you start to go, well, I thought I'd be making $100,000 a year by this point. I thought I'd be married, but anything that comes after the but doesn't matter. It's just excuses, right? You didn't commit to that vision. And so I think that's where you're probably living in a little bit of victimhood. And I think a lot of us can find ourselves there. Most people need to spend more time journaling, actually, and spending time with our thoughts. And a really powerful thing that I do every Thursday, actually, is I go down to the beach and I journal and ask myself, what are the thoughts that I'm thinking? What's holding me back this week? And really becoming aware of the things that I'm resisting, the things that I'm putting off, the things that I'm not taking ownership of. And that question of, if I'm not happy, why am I not happy? And if it goes to the blame, no, I'm not happy because my husband's being a jerk this week. Well, that's a victim. I'm not happy because my friend didn't invite me to her birthday party. Well, that's a victim, right? If you're putting the reasons why you're not happy on other people, then you're being a victim, right? Yep. Yeah.
When you blame and you complain and you justify, that is like a big signal that you're living in a victim mentality. And I really love the rest of your story, which is evolving, but that you were an ER nurse saving lives, and you completely jumped out of that while you were kind of side hustling with network marketing and became a millionaire.
Yep. Yeah. So, I'll give you the rest of the story. I became an ER nurse by the time I was 21. And it was funny that I landed myself in a hospital bed at the age of 18 because I already knew at that point I was going to be a nurse. I was already taking my prerequisites and such. But that moment gave me even more I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it now. Like the sooner I can become a nurse, the better my life is going to be. So on track, I graduated quickly, and then I became a charge nurse in the ER at 21 years of age. Okay. I know a lot of 21-year-olds now, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe that somebody put me in a leadership position, but they did. And what they saw is I said, why me? There's all these older people that have had much more experience. Why me? She goes, I just see leadership qualities in you. You're the person for the job. And so she believed in me. I stepped into it, and that really changed a lot for me. And that goes to show anybody listening right now, the most you could do right now for somebody else is to just speak hope and speak belief in them. Speak what you see in them to be true. Speak it out loud. Don't keep it to yourself, because it could change the whole direction of their life. And then when I was introduced to network marketing with my company at 23, to me, because I had like, oh my gosh, and then I became a successful charge nurse. I mean, I was like doing an awesome job at it. And at 23, I have like this ego kind of, and I'm like, I'm feeling good about myself. So then when network marketing comes into my life, I'm like, heck yeah, all I have to do is sell these shakes. I'm in. And so 3 years later, I became a millionaire in the company, which means, for a lot of people that don't know what that means, but it means I had made $1 million cumulatively in commissions. And what I found at that moment in time is I was like, where did this money go? And in 3 years, I had spent really all of that money on going on vacation, taking everybody around me out to dinner, out to breakfast. I would pay for everybody. And, because I grew up with no money. So I just wanted to give it back to people. And I found, okay, but I got to start to create something for my family's legacy. I really have to secure wealth for us. And so that's when it started, like this whole nother journey of like, okay, how do we create different income streams? How can we make our money work for us? And then Mommy Millionaire was born because I wanted to teach people the things that I was learning, because nobody taught me those things, right? Like I just didn't know what to do with money because I didn't have a mom and dad to look up to and say, hey, where should I invest? How should I save? So that's kind of like the involvement of my journey. I have Mommy Millionaire now with the podcast, the live events, the masterminds, and I am so freaking passionate about helping women, create financial freedom. And when I say create, it's because anybody can create it. It's about creating it from any place you're at in life right now. I don't care if you are $300,000 in debt, $500,000 in debt. There is no amount of debt that can keep you from financial freedom. And so it's really like, I just get so fired up about helping people, So that's what I'm doing now. And I think back to like, why am I so passionate about this? Like, why can't I just be happy with the money I've made? And I know it's because people are listening in right now and they still get caught up in the how. They just don't know how. They're like, okay, I believe I can have financial freedom. I just don't know how. Like, what do I do next? And there's so much information out there. You know this, right? You're in the same like industry. Yes. There's so much information. And I just want to make it crystal clear on what is the person's next step. If you're not making $50,000 a month in cash flow, you're doing something wrong. Let's figure it out. And I really just teach people how to do that, how to monetize better. So,
and I think the how starts to show up as you start to take steps and action and action and action, right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's just like you have to make a commitment, okay, I'm going to make, whatever the amount is. Maybe it's $250,000 a year. That's the amount I'm committed to at first. And then you start to go, well, what does a person that makes $250,000 annually do every single day? Are they writing emails? Are they automating their business? Are they prospecting all the time? Are they doing things like wasting time and scrolling on social media for 7 hours a day? Probably not, right? So I always ask people, get clear on your commitments, and like everything else, work backwards from there.
I love the whole saying it out loud. It's big. A lot of the time, we don't want to say it out loud because we're almost afraid of what is ourselves, of reaching that dream. Some people are afraid of that success, and they're afraid to say it out loud because they're afraid of judgment, of what other people will think about them. Who am I to do this? Just so many things.
I see this because I've worked with like tens of thousands of women at this point, and people do get scared of success. And what happens is at a very young age, we start to create beliefs. You know, our subconscious mind is formed by the time we are 7 years of age. And if we saw something before we turned 7, maybe we saw somebody that was super successful get a divorce. Well, we start to create that belief in our subconscious mind that people that are successful get divorces. And if we value things like marriage, well, we're going to do everything to sabotage our success because we want to stay married. I've seen that happen with women, you know, or if we created a limiting belief when we were 5 years old because we saw a successful person be mean to somebody else. Well, we think successful people are mean, and I don't want to be mean because my core value is being nice. So we do a lot of things to sabotage ourselves because we don't take the time to question our beliefs. And the first thing I do when I have people start working with me is we question everything. What are the beliefs that you have about money? What are the beliefs that you have about success? And everybody listening in right now, I beg you to do this exercise. What are the things that come up right away? And don't judge the thought, just write it down. You know, what do I believe about my self-worth? What do I believe about networking? What do I believe about, you know, partnering with people in business? What are my beliefs? Write everything down and then look at it. And don't judge it. Say, do I believe this? Is this really true? And a lot of times, I mean, mainly, like I would say 10 times out of 10 times, like everybody finds it. They don't actually believe it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you've been thinking this whole time. No wonder you're not where you want to be. Your beliefs are not in alignment with the person that you really desperately want to be. So then you have to replace those thoughts with different thoughts.
I love that. And I think you have to write your fears down as well, because a lot of the time you don't even realize, unless you call it out and you write it down, you don't recognize what you're really afraid of. Or I think it might make you realize that you don't really need to be afraid of it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and I think with fear is always a choice. And as human beings, because our minds were, formed from like the caveman days, literally, like, and they are generationally passed on, our minds are set for survival. Okay. So that's why we do have a lot of fear, is because our minds have been formed to keep us from dangerous things. And some of those fears are relevant, right? Like if we see a snake, we should be scared. Like, yes, don't go near the snake because you might die. That's okay. If you see a cheetah, don't go near it. There's a lot of fear. So fear isn't a bad thing. And I think society kind of makes fear be a bad thing. No, fear actually helps us. But some fear is completely irrational. And instead of being in denial about what you're scared of, you're right, exactly. Face the fear head on. And I always ask people, like, you brought up the fact, oh, I'm scared of what people are going to say. Well, what's the worst thing that somebody could say about you? And how does that ultimately affect your life? How does that ultimately affect your family's legacy? And I always take it back to the Bible. Like, people can say hurtful things, but what is the most important thing is what the Lord says of you. And he says you're a child of his and that you have royalty in your DNA. So that's how you walk around. There are going to be people out there that are just
you just have to expect it whenever you're reaching out and living your dreams, that there are going to be people that criticize you because you are actually doing something.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And you have to think about it like this. People are wired for safety. So people don't like leaving their comfort zone. And when you start to leave your comfort zone,
it scares them too.
Oh my gosh. It means like, oh, is there something? It makes them actually put a mirror up to themselves, and they don't want to deal with the things that they see in the mirror. And so they want to deny you. They want to push you away. And that's totally okay. You can't make them wrong for being them. You can't expect people to be on this journey with you, but you have to be committed to your journey and not stopping it for somebody else.
Exactly. I really this is really tying into, I love your tagline, be shameless in your ambition. Why should women be shameless in their ambition rather than feeling the mommy guilt? Or I think women feel guilty for having dreams inside. And I just want to know, why should we be shameless?
So because of my childhood, I I grew up with so much shame. And I used to think that it was normal to have shame. I didn't realize that shame was a choice. And I could choose to hold on to the shame, or I could choose to release the shame. And that's why I chose the tagline "Be Shameless," is because I wanted people to know, if you're feeling any shame right now, it's a choice. So let's choose something different. And the reason why people should is because there are so many amazing women with amazing gifts that can help impact the world. And because people are playing small and they're filling their life with shame, those people that are put in your life for a reason are not being impacted by you in the way that they should be, because you're playing small. So you've got to start playing big and being shameless, going out there, putting yourself out there, reaching out to people to grow your brand or do whatever it is that you want to do. Just unapologetic about it, and every single time I have somebody on my podcast, I always ask, what's the most shameless thing you've done? And over again, I kind of get the same thing. Well, I just persisted. Like, I would just keep asking people until they said yes. And sometimes that is like, oh yeah, that is like, you just don't care at that point because you want it so bad. And a lot of people, they don't persist until, because they start to feel shame. Like, I feel guilty for bugging this person, and I'm ashamed that it's just, this business isn't coming to me easy. And they start to like have all these doubts and all this like fear, and they basically oppress themselves, So I'm so passionate about helping women. And for those of you guys listening in right now, anytime you start to feel shame about something, maybe it's something you did in your past, or, and a friend brings it up to you. Cause I think that's what people do. And I remember my friends doing this to me. Like,
they do.
What happened to the good old Cayla that would X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, well, that Cayla has evolved. And, you can choose right then and there to say, I'm not going to take this on. I'm not going to put this in my heart. These people's opinions of me will never pay my bills. They're not going to, build my family legacy for me. They're doing nothing for me. So I'm not letting them into my head and into my heart.
I love that. And it is sometimes because they want to keep you where they want to keep you. When they're telling you these old stories of something that it might bring you down a little bit.
Well, and one of my friends put it so perfectly, because I love this. I just love this visualization. I share it all the time. It's when you're with your friends that you've known for a long time that kind of want to do this stuff to you, bring up old stories, things you've done wrong, whatever. It's like you guys have been in a really dark room for a long time, and you all have lampshades on your head. And what happens is when you decide to go after your dreams, it's like you're taking the lampshade off and your light is becoming brighter and brighter. And what happens when we're in a super dark room? It's like, oh gosh, turn off the lights. It's too bright. It's hurting my eyes.
Right.
That's exactly what's happening with your friends. People aren't usually doing it for a malicious reason, right?
No, I think for the majority, they're not.
It's a safety thing. It's literally a safety thing. It's, oh my gosh, my eyes hurt.
And
it has
another
nothing to
big
do with
one
you.
would be the crabs in a bucket. It's this mentality. Nobody wants to be left behind.
Mm-hmm.
Not even in boot camp. I found, like, I used to be on this 50-yard sprint turf, and if somebody's in really amazing shape, the other people are feeling like left behind. So when I moved to my new studio, we're still doing the same workouts, but because it's not such a big space, and I also have treadmills so they could run at this same time together, they don't feel left behind. And I think a lot of the time when you start to grow, people are afraid you're leaving them behind, so they want to pull you back down.
That is it. Yeah, I'd never heard that one before, but that is true.
Yeah.
I think so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. How can we all gain this abundance mindset that I see and hear so clearly on the Mommy Millionaire podcast?
I think it's accepting the fact that you're in abundance right now. The fact that if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're living in abundance. Okay. And I think a lot of people think that they have to create it, or it's something that one day they'll have. But what you can decide right now is to live in it now. And the number one way to feel abundant is to get grateful and to realize, like, I know everybody says this, but there's a reason why everybody
you
says
just
it.
put it so
right?
beautifully. That was perfect.
Yeah. I mean, there's just a reason why everybody says it. And so, I teach my kids this on the way to school. We're asking, what are you guys grateful for this morning? When we're going to bed at night, what are you guys grateful for? Every single coaching call I start off, what are you guys grateful for? My team meetings with my employees, what are you guys grateful for? Because I want to set that culture that there is so much to be grateful for. The fact that you're breathing, the fact that you can hear this audio is a reason to be grateful, because you could not have that, And when you get into that mode of just finding those things that we take for granted every single day, and you look around the whole entire world and realize there's people that don't have those things, you should feel so, so blessed and abundant to have it. And just live in that knowing that you are so supported and so taken care of, and you didn't have to do anything to earn the air that we breathe, or the fact that you can see, the fact that you can hear. You were born that way. And so it's living in that, like, gosh, I am so special. I'm so grateful for this.
I love that. I love that we're already living in abundance, that it's not outside of us. I think a lot of the time we are chasing after things and we feel like it's out there somewhere. I love how you just brought it right home. It's right here, right now. Everybody has abundance. How can somebody recognize that, though, when they may be in a really difficult situation? How can they begin to recognize?
Well, I think it still goes back to the gratitude thing, because even if you're in a really hard situation, you're still breathing. Okay. So you are alive for a purpose, and reminding yourself of that very fact. That is a fact. If you're alive, you're here for a reason. And then getting into, like, every season that you're in is temporary, even the good ones, right? So nothing in your life is permanent. Nothing is permanent. And so that's a deep knowing inside of you. You could be at rock bottom, which I've been many times. Even in a successful point, I've hit rock bottom, where you're like in debt because you made a bad, investment, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, what are we going to do to get ourselves out of this mess? And my marriage is a mess, like all these things. And it feels like so big sometimes. And what I like to do in those moments is pull myself out of it and give myself a bird's eye view on my life. And you'll probably see the rock bottom moment that you're in right now is not the only rock bottom moment you've ever been in your life. You've probably just forgot about all the things that you've overcome in your life. And looking back, you can go, oh my gosh, I'm an overcomer. This too shall pass. That is my favorite saying. This too shall pass. Whether it be success or failure, this too shall pass. Okay. We are going to move on from this moment, and then get into imagination mode. So when we're in rock bottom, our imagination is running wild, but we're living in a nightmare, right? We're just playing out all the worst case scenarios in our mind. What if we started putting our imagination to good use and just started to dream big, right? Because whatever we can create in our mind, we can create to be real in our lives. And that's all we have to focus on is like, okay, what can go good from here? What would be so amazing if this happened in my life right now? And start to just play out all the good scenarios. Start to visualize all these amazing things happening to you. And lo and behold, guess what? Your subconscious mind starts to go, okay, let me find proof that this can be my reality. Okay. And that's where your thinking becomes so important. And you stay focused in on the thoughts that will create your new reality. All right. Your thoughts create your feelings create your actions create your character, and your character creates your destiny. Okay. And so when we know those things are facts, you hear all the thought leaders out there, every single one of them will agree on that fact, right? So what's so powerful is if thoughts are things and thoughts are what create our destiny, I can change my thought at any moment in any given time, no matter what situation I'm in right now. And that is so empowering. So choose a different thought. like, oh, I might be at rock bottom now, but this is temporary and I'm going here. I am committed to going here, and start saying those things, committing to those things, becoming that person.
I think you find whatever it is that you're looking for, and gratitude can pull you out of any situation. It changes the way you're looking at things. I know for me, we were having a tough time in our marriage, and I just started changing my thoughts and being grateful. And I think, in relationships, in marriages, you can go through phases, just like you were saying. Not everything, it's a season. And if
Mm-hmm.
you just recognize that it was not always that way. Obviously, you married the person. It's not always going to be that way, because
Yes.
I think more people would work things out when they realize that you go through seasons. And I loved
Mm-hmm.
how you spelled that out, how your thoughts became things.
Yeah.
And I just really think changing the way you're looking at things, the way you're thinking about things. And sometimes like in my situation in the first marriage, I had to get out. But a lot of the time, if you really just start tuning into the things you're grateful for, it just changes your whole situation.
I love that.
Yeah. So I love everything you're talking about today. Tell us a little bit about your event, this Mommy Millionaire event you're having in October.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I know it's in like right now. So, really what the event is about is I've been to so many events. I don't know about you, but just so many entrepreneur events. And they were just really hype. Like where you go and you just get excited, you get hyped up on stuff, and then you go home and you feel like you just have so much to implement. It can almost feel really overwhelming. And so I wanted to create an event where it wasn't hype, but you really felt like family when you walked in the door. And even though there's hundreds of women in the room, and really with a purpose. And the purpose of Mommy Millionaire Live is every single person there wants a community, but they also want to grow their own community. And so we're going to be teaching people how on every single platform, whether it's podcasting, blogging, or social media, how do you grow an audience, keep them engaged, and and monetize your message. So that's really the goal of the event. And I'm so excited. I'm bringing in people from all over the world to train on how to do this, just experts in what they do. And I'm just like, I love the events because I love to squeeze everybody. And I also like to just get to know what their dreams are and then get out there in these roundtables and help them work on it before they leave, before the weekend's over.
I love that. Surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, how important is that?
I mean, when people ask me, how do you become successful? That's the number one thing, right? So if you hang out with people that think small and play small, you will always think small and play small. It's just a proven fact. But if you're the person that kind of thinks small and plays small, but you start hanging out with the big players that are doing big things, you can't help but level up. You have to, because you're like, oh, so environment is everything. If you're not blooming where you are right now, you have to change the people that you're letting into your circle. And I have massive amounts of boundaries around me because I am so crystal clear on where me and my family are going. I don't I practice limited association with my family. I am like, you can't bust through and try to mess with my vibes right now because we're on fire.
I think when you know you're going somewhere and that you have a mission greater than you, like you start to realize that these small little distractions, that's what they are when somebody's maybe coming against you or, pulling you down, or, you start to realize that they don't matter that much. It's more like, I need to set these boundaries so that I can focus on the greater vision. And I think setting goals pulls you out of living small. And I remember sitting in my studio, my small studio, I call it my practice studio. It was the Chick Fit studio, and it was small, but we loved it. I remember sitting in there one day and I prayed. I was like, God, I know I'm living small. I know
Mm.
that you have bigger things for me and greater things. And he heard me. He heard me. My rent increased like the next month to triple.
Oh,
And
wow.
so like I'm one of these people, I got to get kicked out of the nest or I'll just keep doing the same old thing. And so I remember sitting in that studio and I thought, and I said it out loud to my husband, we're going to have to go big or go home. And that's it. We're going big. We're not going home. So we started the Sisterhood of Sweat and we opened it on May 1st. So,
Yay!
and so I think, you know, it's just recognizing when you are playing small and calling it out and being ready. You have to be ready for more. You have to be ready and be like, all right, I'm ready.
Yes, yes. And I love how you prayed and then a door was kind of closed for you, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was like automatic.
Yep.
Yeah,
I love that.
automatic.
And I think
Automatic.
when you're talking about environment and like all of these things that go along with success, I always like to picture like God carrying me. And when you know a supernatural force such as God is carrying you through to where he wants you to go, there is nothing that can stop you. And it's going around in that knowing and in that faith that you are trusted, you're protected, and you're safe because he's got you. And when you go around in that type of just knowing, that deep belief, everything will change for you in your life because things will come against you because they will. And it doesn't matter because you're still being carried, and you're, as long as you just surrender and let him carry you, because he will close and he will open doors for you.
Yeah, I completely believe that. He kept calling me to speak. I didn't want to. I didn't know why. I was stalling, you know, but I just kept feeling it overwhelmingly. And so one day I just trusted him and I jumped in with both feet. And I can see the bigger picture already just from jumping in the pool. And I realized, okay, he's given me the tools or he wouldn't ask me to do this. So I have to then trust what I'm feeling
Yes.
to.
Yes. Go girl.
Well, that was my big, other than the fear of heights, the fear of public speaking, I would say, like, not public speaking like a canned speech. I was great at that. Public speaking from the heart, like making an impact and saying the real truth and being the real you.
Being
That was
vulnerable.
what scared me to death. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah. But I'm so proud of you because leaning into that scary thing, you realized you didn't die. You helped a lot of people.
Right.
And you realize, oh my gosh, like you feel so empowered and confident after you do scary things like that. And then you just want to do more and more of it. You're like, how can I do more of it?
Right. And then you're like, what was I so scared of? Fearing the thing is worse than doing the thing by far.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it, like you said, when you do that scary thing, it is so empowering because it doesn't have a grip on you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And freeing.
Absolutely.
Because you're free to just fully live in your greatness.
Yes, I love that.
This has been so amazing. How can people get a ticket to your event, download your free ebook?
Yes. Okay. So you guys, we've talked a lot about, you know, so many different things when it comes to being an entrepreneur. But the one thing that I know that has gotten me all this success is being myself. And so I have a free ebook, and it's all about how I went from making $10,000 a month to making $50,000 a month just by becoming more me. And you guys can get that over at mommymillionaire.co. If you just go to the resources section, you get it, put your email in, and then we'll send you off that. And if you want to come to the event, oh my gosh, I would love to see you there. It's in Scottsdale, Arizona. I would sell all your Gucci purses to get to this event because it's gonna be amazing. It's a life-changing event. So many cool women there, so many amazing speakers. You can get your ticket at mommymillionaire.co. And actually right now, if everybody, because I know it's like last minute, but we could give everybody on your audience 10% off a ticket.
Okay.
If they just use the code MOMMY. So
Okay.
MOMMY, they'll get 10% off.
All right, you guys. I'm going to the Mommy Millionaire event.
Yay!
You can come with me.
Yeah. Have the sisterhood of sweat there.
I'm so excited. Now, what are they going to miss? What are they going to miss if they did not sign up?
Everything. I think that, one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself is invest in yourself. And because it's like that moment kind of that I had in my hospital bed where I drew the line in the sand and I said, enough is enough. I'm done living this life. When you invest in events, you're investing in yourself, and basically you're saying enough is enough of the level I'm playing out now. I need to do something drastic like this in order to change everything. So if you don't come, what type of income are you going to be missing out on because of the strategies you'll learn at this event, the collaborations you'll make at this event? There's so much to lose by not coming, because when is there going to be another event like this? There's no other event out there like this. There's a lot of hype events with huge names, all these big speakers with thousands of people there. I guarantee you it doesn't feel like a family, and you don't have a coach that makes millions of dollars a year walking around helping you on your business just for being at the event. So there's just nothing else like it. And that's why I say, like, sell anything to come. I've had people like just do crazy things, like sell a trailer to come to get the airfare and all this stuff because they believed in their mission so much. And I just feel like you get rewarded when you do big things like that.
It's true. When you invest in things, big things happen. And every time I went to an event, big things have happened for me. And so I just really believe in investing in you. And when you do step out, the universe just greets you. It's amazing. And I just am so thankful that Cayla came on to share all of her positive vibes with us today. Please reach out to her and buy a ticket and let her know how much you enjoyed her today. Thanks everyone for listening to the Sisterhood of Sweat.